Hi.
Hi.
Let me adjust this camera just a scotch. Hi guys, it's Helen Hart-Smith here again with
Kathy.
And we're doing another top 10.
Yay.
It's 10 time, it's 10 time. Boo boo, choo choo choo. So, Kathy.
Helen's.
What is this top 10?
Oh, this is a fun top 10, and wasn't this requested?
You know, I think it was. Why don't you tell what it is and I'll see.
So, the topic is the top 10 ways to start a pagan or witchy path.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure it was suggested by somebody on a comment on one of the videos that we had posted.
Yeah.
Right there.
Nope, that's not it. That's not it either.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it
so
wasn't.
Helen will put it in the comment when she finds it.
Yeah, if it was, because maybe it wasn't.
I'm pretty sure it was. Somebody mentioned it. Maybe somebody said something. Regardless, it was suggested to us. We just may not remember how.
Well, I
so
tried to make notes.
It. Please comment that you suggested it, because
and this one's for you.
Yeah, we do really appreciate.
No, this is an idea that we came up with on our own. We can do that sometimes.
We do. Okay, but this is the top 10 ways to start off on a pagan path.
Right. So if you're out there and you're questioning, is paganism for me?
Right.
Here are some ways. And paganism covers a lot of ideas and spiritualities, because not only does it cover witchcraft, but it's Buddhism, it's Confucianism, it's Hinduism. I mean, anything that's not an Abrahamic religion is considered pagan.
Right.
So here's top 10 ways to kind of get started and see it, so you can see, is this book for me, or is this path for me?
Right.
So number one.
And if the path is for me, which one of these paths do I follow? Because there's infinite variety.
Yes.
So we believe, and this is in no particular order, but a good place to start is by reading books, and go to the pagan section of the library or to a bookstore.
It's technically the metaphysical study.
Amazon has a huge selection of metaphysical books. Start with the newbie books, though. A really awesome one to start with is Mystic Foundations by Christopher Penczak.
That is a book that we suggest to anyone that comes. Because not only is it geared toward Wicca, but there's also information in there about different paths that are pagan. Right. So it kind of gives you a little flavor.
It covers Christianity a little bit too. So
exactly.
It gives you a wide variety of suggestions okay, this one looks good to me. Let's start here. Let's move there.
Definitely.
So it gives you a place to start, and it's very good. But if you're pretty sure that if you're Wiccan, there's Silver Ravenwolf has some good books. To Light a Sacred Flame.
There's something about a broomstick.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been a long time since I've read those books, but they're out there. There are a lot of newbie 101 witchcraft books out there.
And we actually did a top 10 list for top 10 newbie books. So I will put a link in that, and I'm sure that Mystic Foundation is on that list.
I know it is.
I will put a link to that top 10 in the description box below if you're looking for more information on, what books to look for. So that's number one. So number two is to talk to a pagan.
If you can find one.
I mean, it's
not always easy to do if you're just starting out.
Right.
But we're out here.
Yeah, there are some of us that are...
We're all around you.
We're all around you. Yeah, so, and there are those of us that are out and proud, and, once you start looking looking at and reading things, you'll be able to recognize things like a pentacle necklace or
the goddess symbol.
Right, so those types of things, you'll be able to pick it out and be able to say, hey, can we have coffee? And maybe I can pick your brain, or what have you. There are ways to kind of find people. And that, I think, if you're questioning, talking to someone who is of that spirituality that you think is where you're being guided to, that's probably one of the best ways to kind of really get some firsthand information.
And we've done that quite a few times for various people who are like, hey, this seems interesting. I want to know more. Can we sit down and talk?
Right.
And we are more than happy to do that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Totally. And I almost wonder, that lends to the question, could we do some kind of a Facebook Live thing where we talk to people?
Or a Skyping session.
That's a little intense, but I mean.
But I guess, maybe we might be open to the suggestion if someone is open to the idea.
Yeah, like if you really don't have any resources, around you, then and just want to talk to somebody, then email heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com, and maybe we can get into a discussion about that. Right. That's a whole other topic. So next.
Okay, so there's YouTube. There are countless numbers of videos for people who are interested in any form of paganism on YouTube. I know that what's the one that my cousin found?
It was something about hippie chick or something like that.
It was something weird. Anyway, there's a lot of them out there. Just Google witchcraft or what is witchcraft, and there you'll find a whole bunch of stuff.
And take into consideration that, when it comes to paganism, there are a lot of different flavors out there. And so don't watch one person and think that's how everybody is.
No. And not just because there's a lot of different flavors, because some people don't quite get it right. And Googling what is witchcraft will also get you the religious right that will tell you about how evil it is.
Right.
So be discerning about what it is that you're watching and listening to.
Right.
Find something that seems like it's logical, that seems like it makes sense, and double check that with 2 or 3 other podcast people.
Definitely.
And that's actually good for a suggestion for any of these things. Don't just read one book, read 5 books. Don't just talk to one person, talk to 5 people.
Right.
Look at various things, because as much as we hate to admit it, there are some disreputable people who call themselves pagans.
Right.
And you don't want to get trapped in with one of those. You want to have your options open and find something that speaks to you, and isn't, batshit crazy, at the same time.
And just to throw some names out there, I really want to bring up Ember Honeyraven, but I don't know if she's returned any of her witchy content to her channel. Ember was one of the very first people that I ever watched on YouTube, and she's amazing. So I highly recommend her. Athena Beth Black is really good. If you're interested in like hoodoo type stuff, Conjured Cardia is amazing, and she lives in Michigan as well.
Really?
Yeah, she's really, she's on the east side of the state, if I remember correctly. And then I really enjoy Jessie Huntenberg. She's got a perspective on paganism topics that is very similar to mine. And I don't know if like who she's learned under, like who's taught her, or if it's just self-taught, but her stuff is very similar to mine. So I guess we could probably recommend Heart of the Witch's Path as a channel to watch too. What are you thinking?
You don't have the ocean something on there. Something ocean is one that I've been watching, and I don't know.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I just don't have it.
I'm so horrible with names. There are coven members that I call by other coven members' names. Seriously.
She's like a grandma.
I've been this way my entire life. I blame my father, who ran through the list of my siblings' names to get to me.
And there was only 5 of you.
Right.
Next on the list is to read a blog. There's lots of blogs out there that are really good. You can hit up Pagan. They have a lot of different traditions under paganism, and lots of really good blog content there.
Right. And there's people that blog too. I mean, you can do Matt Aaron.
He blogs on Patheos, but I think he has a separate one as well.
Right. So there's find a celebrity pagan and read their blogs. And again, not just one, find 2 or 3.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Find an open ritual to attend. Now, I know it's not really easy for everybody. I know that some areas of the country and the world paganism, you just can't be open. But there are ways to find them. I don't know, what's that site, Meetup? Is that still
Isn't
running?
there Witches Vox or something like that? Witch Vox?
Witch VOX. Sometimes we'll have a listing. I don't know how updated it is. It just really depends on who's on it. As to covens or groups in the area that will have an open ritual.
Now, was that countrywide or was that Michigan specific?
No, they it's countrywide, and they have a section for Michigan, a section for different states.
Okay, cool.
So
I will put a link to that in the description box.
And I don't know if that's worldwide, but
yeah. But I mean, it's at least a starting point. If you're in college, there are all kinds of boards all over. So you might look for flyers that have, an open ritual flyer up there. Word of mouth, different things like that.
Doing the next item on our list.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, the next item is number 6 is visit a New Age store. Sometimes finding a New Age store is hard or maybe non-existent in your community.
And they're really called metaphysical stores nowadays.
Yeah,
when you Google, do metaphysical.
But any good store is going to be a font of information for local happenings.
Yeah. And they will also have books.
Right, because that's really kind of your watering hole for events and people, because that's where everybody comes to. If you want to meet somebody who's into quilting, are you going to go to Joann's or are you going to go to a restaurant?
Well, so then there's Joann's, but then there's also a quilt shop.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you're going to go to a place where people gather that do the same thing that you're looking for, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So, and any good New Age store is going to be that kind of a,
clearinghouse.
Exactly. Yeah. Go to a New Age store. That's where you're going to hopefully find information.
And if you're in an area where there isn't one, it's hard.
It's harder. It's harder, but because the town that we live in does not have a New Age store, so we go out of town. We have to go
to Flint or Lansing to find one, or Ann Arbor.
But I mean, if you don't have a New Age store in your town and you go to the next town over that does have one and you find out about an open ritual, then maybe you'll meet somebody there that lives in your town.
Right. And you might be surprised about a New Age store in your area, because I found one in Houghton Lake. Houghton Lake, Michigan is this teeny little resort town. Right. They have a New Age store, which I was like, what the hell is this?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes looking for stuff like that, you have to be creative. You have to be creative and look at what they're selling.
Right.
And, because not everybody, not every store is going to be, what was Giles's bookstore called in Buffy?
Magic Box.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be like, here's your golden ticket.
So there was a store in the mall in Flint that started out as like a kitschy store that had, a
little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah, this little statuary and some rocks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they were able to gradually bring out more of the witchcraft and stuff like that. So, if you find something that has stones and maybe tarot cards, but doesn't appear to be like a full-blown witchcraft store,
chances are.
Ask.
Right. So, New Age store.
New Age store. The cat's in the way. You can start recognizing and or honoring nature, and that's just as simple as going out and listening to nature. Listen to the animals, listen to the wind, do some meditation outside, observe the passage of time, the growth of plants,
talk to plants,
the movements of animals, commune with the ground that you're on. Just try to get that kind of communication, and I would recommend that no matter where you are on your path.
For sure. Definitely. Number 7 on the list, number 8 is to attend a big event. This is not like an open ritual. This is a big event like a pagan pride, or we talk about convocation all the time here.
Right.
That's like a big weekend event. PantheaCon is a big
Right.
event in San Jose, California.
Hex Fest in New Orleans. And I think New York has another big one.
Yeah, New York has a big,
Right.
but a lot of major cities anymore will have a pagan pride day.
Right.
There's also things like pagan picnics.
Right. Or
There's
local organizations will have something like that.
like a meetup. Like
Right.
we started a pagan meetup.
Right.
So
they're out there. It's just a matter of finding it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Pagan Pride has a website. If you just Google Pagan Convention, I mean, witchcraft convention.
Get creative in how you Google things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because sometimes it's not as obvious as you would think that it would be.
sometimes it's not as obvious as the Shiawassee pagan meetup. So,
Right?
but yeah.
But yeah. So one thing that it's really important to do is our next item, and it's find your tribe. And when I said this to Helen, she's like, what do you mean? And it kind of falls back to when Helen and I started our first coven along with some other people. We got together because of all things, a Star Trek group. And we moved on to doing some role-playing gaming. And then Helen brought over a book and said, hey, this is a really cool book. I'm going to read this. And I said, yeah, well, I own that. And then we were like, oh, let's do this. So you find somebody that you have something in common with. And a more recent example for me is I listened to a podcast about murder because I just roll that way. And the people who like this are called Murderinos, but there's so many people who love this podcast. They have these subgroups. And they have a subgroup for people who have cats. It's called Meowderinos. And I think there's one for dogs, but I don't know what that one would be called because it's not me. They have one for people who like supernatural. It's called Moose and Squirrel or something like that. But they also have one that's called Witcherinos. So if I wasn't already a witch and I was a fan of this podcast and I could, I heard about the Witcherinos, I'm like, yeah, I got to join that. So that would have been a way for me to connect with other people who are witches. And I see a lot of newbies on that group ask, I want to start. Where do I start? And of course, I've suggested the Mystic Foundation. About 10 times.
All the other things that we've already talked about.
And I've suggested our podcast several times too. Just to throw it out there because I am a big believer that if you can be out and proud, you have to be able to point.
Yeah, it's part of your responsibility to help educate.
Yeah. So find people who have interests in the same things that you do. I mean, I bet you if you go to a Comic-Con, you're going to find a lot of pagans. Just find them. If you're a gardener, you're going to find other people who garden and are also witches. If you quilt, you're going to find people who quilt and are also pagans. So just find your tribe and find people who share other interests with you, and you're going to find people who also share this.
Right, because you might very well find that there is an area of your life that, that is you dig, like say you like Big Bang Theory or something like that.
Right.
You might join some kind of another online thing, and you might find people there that are like, I'm not really sure what's going on with my spiritual path. Right. And you can start talking or something, something along those lines.
But you can find that anywhere because Helen and a few people in our coven really like K-pop. And so if you like K-pop and you're with K-pop people, you might find somebody who's a witch there too. So just, you don't want to go out and say, hey, are you pagan? Hey, are you pagan? But if you get enough hints.
If you start educating yourself.
Right,
then you'll start recognizing things.
And also maybe that person is a little further on the path than you are and can recognize that and go, hey, are you interested in this? Can we talk about this? So, for sure. Yeah. So find your tribe.
Find your tribe. The final number 10 on our list is fiction.
And that includes books and movies.
Yeah, that includes books, movies, television.
Right.
And I want to say, we have to say that you have to take this with an even bigger grain of salt than what we talked about with YouTube people and read, a New Age metaphysical book.
Yeah, because you can find grains of ideas that have truth to them in a lot of sci-fi fantasy, or there's a lot like the Craft, the movie The Craft. The Good Witch, Charmed.
There are elements, on the whole, Charmed obviously is a fictional story and it is not real. But there are elements of the story that ring true to some pagan paths.
Right.
And I'm picking my words very carefully.
That's true with a lot of the movies that focus on witchcraft. I mean, obviously the craft is not real. People don't have powers like that. Shit just doesn't work that way.
Right.
However, the rituals that they do, I mean, we use a lot of that stuff in the rituals that we use.
Right. When we call the quarters.
Yeah, we do
and things like that.
Very similar way.
And so that's steeped in realness. And so if you find that, you know, you're reading Harry Potter and there are some bits that are interesting to you on a spiritual level, then perhaps witchcraft is calling to you.
Right.
Now, am I saying that you can make polyjuice potion and look like your next door neighbor if you choke down their hair?
Probably not.
Definitely not. But their potion work is possible in witchcraft.
Right.
Not to make polyjuice potion to look like someone else, but potion work for healing, potion work for bringing prosperity, you know, those types of things.
Right.
There are elements in fiction that ring true to witchcraft.
And there's a huge, I don't want to call it genre, but it's something like that, where people use pop culture in magic.
Right.
Where they use the archetypes of, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a warrior goddess. There's people who follow a Jedi path, for example, that really honestly
there's
use
the
that
whole
spirituality.
dudeism thing from The Big Lebowski. I mean, I don't know that much about it. All I know is that
it's
it
there.
exists.
It's out there.
Right.
It's out there.
So, yeah. So, pop culture is possible to use in magic. And there are some people that excel in using that very much. Right. There are some people that are like, I am not interested. And that's okay. I am not going to
use the Barbie doll as a goddess representation.
Right.
Which I totally
do.
But
I mean, it all comes back to what resonates with you. And it is possible that you could start your path from reading Harry Potter. It's possible you could start your path from watching Charmed.
Right.
These things are possible, to have an idea of something and to go out and find tangible proof and learn more about what does it mean.
And to also find out more about what you shouldn't use as an example, because please don't watch Supernatural and use that as an example of what a witch should be like, because as much as I love the show.
Right. That's a weak area for us.
Yeah.
So, okay, there you have it. 10 ways to start your path. And I'm not even really sure that I like that phrase.
Well, it's to find a path.
Yeah, but it's a start. We were looking for starting points. Start was an important word for me. Yeah. So I hope that this kind of makes sense. I think it does. I mean,
sure.
It is what it is.
So if you have some other ideas and suggestions, please let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
If you've liked this content, please give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, let us know, how did you start on your path? Right. Was there something that you remember specifically that started you? Right. Let us know. Let's have a conversation.
Right.
So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. If you're not comfortable leaving a comment, in the comment section below, you can always email me at heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com.
There's a couple of Instagram accounts. Helen's is
Heart of the Witch's Path.
And mine's at Slays Vamps.
Yes.
And we have a Facebook page.
Yes, Heart of the Witch's Path now has a Facebook page, so go like it. And there's a link in the description box below for that. So that's going to wrap it up for this top 10. Thanks for watching, and thanks for walking the path for a little while with us. Until next time, blessed be.